Hi guys, welcome to my channel. In this video I'll be showing you how to cut a bustier blouse with draped yoke. It's just like the bustier blouse that I already have on my channel. If you're new to the channel, please kindly subscribe, and if you're a return subscriber, thank you. Let's get started. Okay, so like every other video on bustier blouse that I've dropped on this channel, I'm going to be drafting from the basic bodies before we now convert it to a bustier. So I've marked the shoulder and the armhole measurements. So the armhole measurement will form the chest line. That's the armhole divided by 2. Now on that armhole line, you're going to be placing the shoulder that you have. That's your shoulder divided by 2 plus 0.5 seam allowance. Now from that starting point, you mark the shoulder to bust, the shoulder to under bust, the shoulder to waist, and the shoulder to blouse length plus seam allowance. So I use 1.5 seam allowance. Okay, so we're going to be drawing out the lines on those points that I've marked. Now the paper is on fold because the neck is going to have an asymmetric cutting. That's why I kept the paper on fold. So I'm marking the shoulder slants. I went down by 1.5 for the front, and then I added half-inch seam allowance for the shoulder joining again. Now I'm marking out the line. That's I mark the line as bust, waist, under bust, waist, and seam allowance to guide me when I'm drawing my darts. Okay, so on the bust I put the bust divided by 4, on the waist divided by 4, and then the full length, the round full length measurement divided by 4. Then I'm connecting the point. Okay, so what I'm putting right now is the nipple to nipple divided by 4, but I first form the armhole line by going in from the midpoint of the armhole by 0.75 and drawing out the armhole. So I mark the nipple to nipple measurement, that's the nipple to nipple divided by 2. Mark it on the bust, on the waist, and on the full length, and draw out your straight line. So now on the waist, I'm going in by the two sides by 0.75, and then from the bust I came down by 1, from the full length I came up by 1. Then you draw out the waist dart. So the next dart is the bust dart. I came down from the bust line by 1, which is the difference between the shoulder to waist for the front and shoulder to waist for the back. Now I marked the midpoint of the shoulder slant and connected it to the bust point. Then I went up by half-inch from that point. Then I decided how low I want the off shoulder part to be. That's the main bustier part to be before the yoke. I went down by 7 inches, and then I draw out the line. So on that point, on either side of the line coming from the shoulder slant, I'll be marking 0.75 on both sides to do the over bust tightening. And then I connected it to the half an inch above the bust point. So now on the other bust line, I'm doing the under bust tightening by using the bust divided by 4 minus the under bust divided by 4. So I shared it not equally. I made one side to be 0.25 bigger than the other side. That's the side by the side, not the center front, by the side front. It's 0.25 bigger than the one on the center front. So let's assume you have 1.5, you put 0.6 on one part and 0.8 on one part. Or if you have 1.75, you can use 0.75 on one side and 1 inch on the other side. So full length, I did another tightening there by taking 0.5 on both sides of the nipple to nipple line. So these are the lines I'm going to cut out. That's the darts that I'll be cutting out. So you can see that the curve has come out. Then the next thing we're going to do is to go down by like 1.5 or 2 inches to do the sweetheart neckline. Okay, so like that we are done for the front. We're going to be drafting the back. For the back, I'm marking out the zipper allowance first. Then I mark the shoulder divided by 2 plus seam allowance, 0.5 seam allowance, and the armhole divided by 2 for the chest line, just as I did for the front. And then on that chest line, I put the shoulder measurement and connected it to the one up. Then I measure the shoulder to bust. The shoulder to waist now is -1 compared to what we use for the front because of the bust flat. And then the shoulder to full length too will be -1 because of the bust dart, so that by the time you finish folding your bust dart, the back and the front sides are going to align. They're going to be the same. Okay, so I label the lines, and then I marked out the zipper dart. The zipper dart that I took is 0.75, so I came in by 0.75 on both the main bodies and the zipper allowance. Then from that point now I mark the waist divided by 4, and then on the bust divided by 4 and the full length divided by 4. Okay, so I've drawn out the back. Now I measure the actual waist and divided by 2 to get the midpoint. Then went back to the first straight line that we have for our zipper allowance. Whatever I have there is what I'll be taking there. So that will be that line for the back. So I'm marking 0.75 on both sides of the dart line, and then I came down by 1 inch from the chest line, and I went up by 1 inch from the full length, and then I draw out the darts. So I went down by 1 inch for the shoulder slant for the back, and then I added ½ inch seam allowance to join the shoulder together with the front. Then you measure what is left and divide it by 2. At the midpoint, you're going to go in by 0.25 and draw out the armhole for the back. So I determine how low I went for the front, and then I use that 7.2 for the back to draw out my yoke. So I just connected it as a straight line, and then I extended the dart leg to that point so that I'll be able to cut the back through for my dart. And I did a back tightening of ½ inch on both sides at the chest, the upper chest line, and then on the blouse length. So I determined the wideness of the neck from the back, like how many inches you want, or you can make the neck wideness like 5 inches or 5.5, and then you connect it to form the yoke for the back. You must note that the shoulder of the front and the back must be the same so that you can easily join it. But for this one, we are slashing and spreading it, but so the back one will be a guide for us for the front. So I just went up by 1.5 to curve the down part. Then we're going to be cutting it out. So remember to add back your dart allowance. The dart that I took for the back on the waist is 1.5, on the chest line is 1 inch, and on the full length is 1 inch. So you put them back and then you connect it. Then for the front, because I'll be folding the bust dart, I'm not going to be adding the dart allowance back yet. I'm just going to be writing it, what I took out and what I'll be adding for my seam allowance, so that when I cut on fabric, I'm going to be adding it back. So I'm cutting it out right now. I cut like that for the front because I've not folded the bust dart yet. Okay, and remember that this pattern is on fold, so I pinned it a bit down so that it doesn't shift. Okay, but before pinning the curve, I wanted to draw, I will be drawing out the yoke. Okay, like I said, it's going to have an asymmetric cutting. That's why I kept the fabric, the paper on fold. So I drew out the line. One part is with shoulder and the other part is off shoulder. So you can see the way I drew out the line. So I made the off shoulder part to be -5, and then I curve it as you have seen, and then I'm trimming the off shoulder parts using the person's strap to strap measurement. So I use a strap to strap of 6 inches for her. So that's what, from the midpoint, just mark 6 inches and then you recurve the armhole. Okay, so that that part is going to fit well on the body, because that part is off shoulder. So I pin it together, then so that it doesn't shift when I'm cutting, and then I cut out the waist dart so that I'll be able to fold the bust that way. I had to remove one, so I'll use this pattern to, while I'm cutting, and I'll trim for the other side so that I'll be able to fold in this bust that well. Then I now cut out the excess at the side, so we have the side front, and then I'm cutting out the remaining part of the dart so that we have the center front. Okay, you can see it as it is on fold. That's how the yoke will be on it. So that is for the front. Then for the back, you have to pin it in place before you proceed with your cutting. Okay, so as you can see, I'm pinning it because this one is not really, it's not even on fold, it's two pieces. Though it's on fold, but it's two pieces, so it can shift while you're cutting. You have to stabilize it by holding it with pin so that it doesn't shift while you're cutting. So right now I'm holding that zipper allowance together to assume that I've sewn the zipper allowance, so that by the time I open it up to draw the neckline, it's really easy for me. As you can see, I've opened it up, so I'm going to be drawing out the line like I did for the front. So I'll mark four, I came down by 5 inches for the off shoulder part, and then I connected it to the part that has the shoulder. So you can just draw it anyhow you want it. It all depends on the style that you want for the back. So I drew out as you have seen, and then I marked the 6 inches strap to strap for her, plus 1 inch seam allowance. That's what I did for the front too, in order for you to be able to use it to join the sleeve. So now that I've cut it out, I'm going to draw the shape of the yoke. I need to cut out this yoke so that I'll be able to sew the dart well. So I've cut out the yoke, and then we can now cut out the that. Please remember you can pin it together to avoid it from shifting while you are cutting. I just did mine like that. Okay, so this is how the back will look like. Now this is the yoke that we cut out for the back. It's two options. You may decide to slash this, cut it open and spread it, okay, or you get a fabric, like I use net for it. Then you may not have to cut it. After you have gathered your net on the neckline, you can use this cutout as a template for you to be sure that what you have is exactly the way it ought to be on the neckline, or you follow with this method of slashing and spreading it out, then you cut it. Okay, so guys, this is the outcome. I'll be dropping the video of the sewing later on the channel. If you have found this video helpful, please kindly give it a thumbs up. I draped the net on it directly, and then I used the cutout to verify. Thank you so much.